So what is dual enrollment? It is the opportunity for high school students to take classes on a college campus and get college credit and high school credit for those classes. So it's dually enrolling in both high school and college classes. It used to be called Move On When Ready. This title, as of maybe a month ago, has been done away with. It's no longer Move On When Ready. You will still see that referenced on materials and things, but Governor Deal decided that Move On When Ready was a confusing moniker, decided we're going to get rid of the Move On When Ready and just call it dual enrollment. So, like I said, Move On When Ready, dual enrollment, things change a lot. So, students can take core classes and graduation requirements and electives. They can pick and choose some of each of those. Students can go full-time, meaning that they don't step foot on Pope campus at all. They could be full-time students at the college. We have several kids doing that this year. Or they can go part-time. Maybe they might want to just take 1 or 2 classes at the college and take the rest here. Maybe they're really involved in an extracurricular activity here at Pope and they don't want to give that up, or a band, orchestra, that kind of thing. And again, we have a lot of kids doing that too. Dual enrollment in the state of Georgia is covered financially. Tuition, mandatory fees, and the books are covered. This is probably one of the biggest draws for students. If you want to get the best bang for your buck, dual enrollment is an excellent thing to do. There are some nominal fees that you might come across periodically, maybe a parking fee, maybe a lab fee, that kind of thing, but they're going to be nominal. It's not like you're going to be paying hundreds of dollars at all. Okay? It has now been made available to students from 9th to the 12th grade. Now, it's rare for us to have 9th and 10th graders do it. I have had a few inquire about that, and I've talked to them about that, and we have had a few do that. But generally, 11th and 12th graders are the students who participate in dual enrollment. That would definitely need to be a conversation to have with your counselor. There are some things that they couldn't do at the college, math in particular. There's some requirements that I'm not going to go too deep into those types of things, but that would be something to follow up with your counselor about. But 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders can participate. It's available fall, spring, and they added summer a few years ago. So some students don't do anything fall and spring, but they could do summer classes. The classes are taken either at the college or online. We don't have any classes that are offered here at Pope. You may hear some other high schools that participate in that type of thing with local colleges, but all of our students take the classes off campus at the college, or a lot of our kids are actually starting to take some online classes as well. And it's available at participating Georgia public, private, and technical colleges. So we even have some private schools that have agreed to do dual enrollment. I'm just briefly going to talk about this. This is there's an alternate graduation option for students who choose to pursue this. This is by no means, I don't have any dual enrollment students doing this currently. But there is a way for students to graduate from high school if they really want to jump into dual enrollment and take as much advantage as possible. The requirement is that they take the 8 and of course test classes. So Algebra 1, Geometry, U.S. History, Econ, American Lit, 9th grade Lit, and Biology, Physical Science, and the corresponding EOCs, and also Health and Personal Fitness. And then at the college, they either get an associate's degree, technical diploma, or 2 related technical certificates. So students who are really wanting to go, this is kind of geared towards students who have a career goal in mind. Maybe they really have something that they want to do, and they're just wanting to jump into that. That is something that you can talk to your counselor about. But like I said, we don't have a lot of kids that do that, but it's a really unique way for students to graduate from high school. So benefits, there's lots of benefits, obviously. It's eligible, it's available for all students in the state of Georgia, public, private, and some eligible homeschools programs can also participate. So they've really opened it up to everybody. And they can do it through the 4 years of high school. You can't do it beyond 4 years. You can't start before 9th grade. And once your cohort class has graduated, you are not eligible to participate after graduation, but the 4 years that you should be in high school. I've already said that tuition, books, and mandatory fees are covered. You get simultaneous credit for high school and college, so you're essentially replacing a class with a college class, something that you're required to take here at Pope. You would take it at college, and you wouldn't have to come back here to Pope and take it. It would replace that class. College credits are not based on a test score. We have tons and tons of kids who take AP classes here at Pope, we have a very strong AP program, but you don't have to take an AP test in order to get the credit. Now, you have to pass the class. It is a college level class, so you have to keep that in mind, but it's not based on one singular test score that you take at the end of the school year. And for some students, it can ease the transition from high school to college. Sometimes, just by taking 1 or 2 classes, maybe taking something in the summer, getting an idea about what college classes might be like, taking an elective. There's lots of ways to use that to get an idea about what college classes might be like. Other things, for students who take academic classes that are degree level classes that would transfer to a 4-year college, they will get an extra half quality point for the Hope GPA. Okay, so please don't get this confused with the Pope GPA. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Pope GPA and how that's affected, but for Hope Scholarship, the Hope GPA, it does get that extra half. Please know, I say this in front of students ad nauseum. If they've ever heard a presentation from me multiple times, they hear me say the same thing. I make them repeat this after me every time. The Hope GPA is not on the Pope transcript. It likely will never, ever, ever be on the Pope transcript. This may be news to many families, but the only place you can view your Hope GPA is on gafutures.org. It's a website that's listed there. The Hope GPA is a core GPA, so it only uses English, math, science, social studies, and foreign language credits for the calculation. And it only gives a 0.5 extra quality point for AP classes only. The Pope GPA, the one that you see at the top of the transcript, is an overall GPA. There are 2 GPAs on the Pope transcript. They both say, one says weighted, one says unweighted. Pope, we calculate the GPA with a half quality point for honors classes, a few exclusions there, and then for AP classes they get a full extra quality point. So it's a very different calculation. The unweighted GPA is also an overall GPA, including every course on the transcript, including electives, but it just takes out the weight. So that's a very important distinction you need to remember. Tell your friends, if you have a 3.0 in your transcript, you likely do not have a 3.0 Hope, okay? Because once you take out those electives, that GPA usually drops below that 3.0, okay? So, enough about that. But go to gafutures.org. Your student would need to create that account. Please, 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 please do not make this account for your student, okay? This happens all the time. We want the students to be familiar with this website, and when you create it for them, then they are not the ones who have the buy-in. We want them to make the account. We want them to learn their social security number. They have to put that in there if they want to see their Hope GPA. But sometimes parents will put their information in, instead accidentally put their birth date or their social security number or something, and it causes problems on our end. We actually have to call GSFC and have that fixed. So please don't do that for your child. Have them do this. Start letting them do these things on their own, okay? That ties very well into dual enrollment, by the way. Okay, students can start pursuing career goals earlier. I've kind of mentioned that before. Some students truly are ready to move on. That's kind of the reason they used to call it Move On When Ready. We have lots of kids who decide to do Move On When Ready, dual enrollment, because they're done, I call it, with the rah-rah of high school. Maybe the drama or just the kind of stuff that goes on. Or maybe they're just mature kids and they just feel like, I feel like I could get more out of my education if I just move on to college and get in that environment. So perhaps that's you. There's an opportunity for a more flexible schedule. We'll kind of talk about how scheduling works a little bit. And the EOCs, the end of course tests, are not required for most of the classes, including American Lit, U.S. History, Economics, Physical Science. They did away with those last year, which was a wonderful, wonderful thing. It was nice to send out that email to my dual enrollment folks. Okay, all right. Lots of caveats, exclusionary factors, limitations. Now, I had a different word up there. I had anyway, I forgot what I had up there before, but I don't want these things to be seen as negatives necessarily, but these are things that could keep you from doing this. These are things that might make you say, oh, I didn't think about that. Maybe this isn't the right program for me. One of the biggest ones is transportation. Only seniors are allowed to park at Hope. With the construction, a lot of our parking spaces have been eliminated, and so we only are able to offer parking to seniors if we have a particularly large senior class. We're not able to even offer all seniors parking. I think right now all seniors do have parking who apply, who are eligible. And the classes have to be taken off of the Pope campus. We do not have lab space. If a student's taking an online class, we don't have lab space. We don't have personnel to monitor those students because we offered it to one, we have to offer it to all, and then we'd have lots of kids wanting to do that. We just don't have the resources to do that. So if a student does dual enrollment, they do have to go off campus to take that class at the college or at home on the computer online. We get that question a lot about, well, can't they just sit in the media center? No, we don't allow that. We can't. There's a lot of liability issues with that as well. The classes are taught by college professors, and they're often challenging classes. Some are going to be easier than others. I've had students come back and say, oh my gosh, that class was so much easier than my AP class. And that very well could be the case. But then you start getting into some of the science classes, and those can be very difficult. Economics can be a difficult class. Sometimes, as we all know, who've been through college, sometimes you get the wrong college professor. It can be a really challenging class. You do get to pick your professors, though, which is a benefit to a certain degree, depending on who's teaching when. I tell kids all the time, use the ratemyprofessor.com website. There's a website where you can actually look up the professors. Some of you may be familiar with that already, but it's a website where you can look up the professors and kind of figure out, okay, is this a good one for me or not? They don't know that a kid is a dual enrollment student. A lot of times the professors have no clue until the student tells them or says it. So they're not going to treat the students any differently just because they're a dual enrollment student. They're treated just like a regular college student. And that also means they're not going to be responding to parents if they email. So if you were to email a college professor, FERPA law says that professors are not supposed to communicate with parents. Okay, so they're automatically not going to be responding back to you. So your student has to be very good at communicating with that professor and knowing how to advocate for themselves. You can talk to the dual enrollment people, and they might be able to help you a lot of times if there's an issue. And I have had that happen sometimes, but you're not going to get a response back from professors. The grades are part of both the high school and the college record. This could be a really good thing, or it could be a really bad thing if you have a really low grade. It starts your college record. And so when you start to apply to colleges and you have to send that college transcript or you're thinking grad school at some point, that class does become part of the record. Okay, so let's talk about the COPE GPA. I kind of explained how that is calculated a few minutes ago. But for the most part, credits are not given weight toward the COPE GPA. And you're thinking, why is that? Well, it's what our county has decided to do. The only way that they will allow us to award extra quality points for dual enrollment classes is if the student has already taken the highest level here at COPE that receives a full quality point, and then they go and take the higher level at the college. Basically saying, okay, I've maxed out what I can do at COPE, now I'm taking something beyond. And then the county will allow us to award those credits. Transferability is not guaranteed. Within the state of Georgia, for the most part, if you're taking mostly the core classes, English 1101, 1102, Math 1111, which is college algebra, if you're taking those basic classes, those for the most part will transfer within the state of Georgia. But once you step outside of Georgia or you start dealing with private schools, you're going to encounter a whole host of different policies, rules. Some of them don't accept them at all. Some may only accept classes that are taken for non-graduation credit, so an elective. So it just depends, and this is where you have to do your research. There's no way for me to know the policies of all 3,000 or so colleges in the United States and even beyond. So your counselor isn't going to be able to tell you that. We can kind of help guide you and show you where you can look to try to find that information. When in doubt, just call the admissions office of the college and ask them. But that's not something that we can be responsible for explaining to you or telling you. You have to do that research for yourself. Competitive colleges also, they may not view dual enrollment credits to be as rigorous as AP classes. This is pretty standard. Like, the more competitive you get, the more they want to know, well, what's the most competitive class that is available to you at your high school. At Pope High School, we have a lot of AP classes. And they see that as a standard curriculum. Those classes are taught similarly across the nation. It's a standard curriculum created by the College Board, whereas they know that college classes could be very different. Like I said, some students come back and say, well, that dual enrollment class is so much easier than my Pope AP class. And that's something that colleges know, especially these more competitive colleges. They like it when you stay and take the AP class generally. But you'll also find that some colleges are not going to make a distinction at all between the two. So again, that's where you have to do some research, ask those hard questions, talk to those admissions rep students when they come. When we do our mini fairs, we just had a mini fair yesterday during X block in the gym. That's a great question to ask the admissions rep. How do you view dual enrollment classes? Are they seen as, are they as rigorous as AP classes when you're looking at students for admission? That's an important thing to know. Okay, other caveats. I mentioned this already, there may be some non-mandatory fees. Sometimes, you choose to take a welding class. Well, guess what? You're going to have to buy a welding mask. The state isn't going to pay for that for you. You have to purchase that. That's going to end up becoming a personal item of yours. Parking fees. Sometimes there's a writing lab fee. You're going to need to be printing off materials because you're taking a class that has a lot of writing, maybe a lit class. You have to factor in travel time, traffic, changing bell schedules. This early release day that we had last Wednesday kind of threw everybody for a loop. With dual enrollment, I had several people say, what do we do? Because it's going to conflict with my classes. It was the early release, that little extra early release thing that happened. It wasn't even set in the calendar until the summer, I think. I think that's when they decided that. At the county, and so people had already created their schedule, so it wasn't anything that we could have anticipated. And here at Pope, we're always changing our schedule for one thing or another. But you need to still be here at Pope for your Pope classes. You're still responsible for that information. So when you're creating your college schedule, you have to be thinking about the times, the days. So there's a lot of thinking that you have to do and making sure that when you leave Pope, you're accounting for driving to the college, making sure you have time to park, what if there's traffic, that kind of thing. So you have to give yourself plenty of time, travel time. You may miss Pope announcements and activities. If you are going off campus, obviously you're not going to be here for all the announcements that happen during the day. You might miss an AO. These things can kind of throw you off kilter if everybody knows that this particular thing needs to be done by this particular date and you didn't hear it because you weren't at school. That's where I would say to students, you really need to be on Ham Highlights, you really need to be looking at the Pope website, be in touch with your AO teacher. I have students who will email their AO teacher periodically or pop in and see them and say, hey, do you have anything for me? They'll keep a folder and they'll just put papers in there and just give it to the student. So that's up to the student to kind of figure out how that's going to work. Okay, this is a big one. The college and the high school calendars may not align. So if you know that you are going in February to Disney because of our break, guess what? The college is probably not going to have a break during that time. So if you're doing part-time, you may not get a spring break because if spring breaks don't align, you may have spring break at Pope, but you're not going to have spring break at the college. And when the college has spring break, you're not going to have it at Pope. So things to keep in mind, okay? That sometimes can be a challenging thing to work around. If you receive special student services, you have to communicate with the college itself. We can't send parapros to the college to go to class with you to help you with things. We can't provide certain things within the classroom. That has to be arranged directly with the college. So the student actually would need to go to the special student service office, and you could probably go with them and help parents. But they're going to have specific information that they're going to need from you to put into place whatever special plan needs to be for that student if they have special needs in the classroom. Colleges generally communicate directly with students via email. Students, if you are not used to checking your email, then if you're going to do dual enrollment, you need to. I always talk to kids periodically, and they're like, I don't know what to do, I don't know how to do this, and I'm like, have you checked your email? Because I know that they send out instructions about that, and they go and check your email, and there it is, it's right there. So, and I send emails, okay? And if those things aren't responded to pretty quickly, then deadlines can come up really quickly and move very fast with dual enrollment, so we don't want those things to be lost. We don't want things to be, we don't want you to miss things. So it's really important to pay attention to that and check your email. Lack of daily interaction with friends may impact relationships. Sometimes students don't realize how much just the day-to-day of seeing their friends every day. I mean, all the crazy things that might happen during the day and just little social things that happen. It can impact maintaining relationships. So that's something to think about as well. Okay. So looking beyond eligibility, the GPA, on paper the student might be perfectly capable of doing dual enrollment, but are they really ready? Okay, so think about you students. Are you disorganized? Or are you organized? Reactive versus proactive? Are you going to come and meet with us ahead of time, or are you going to wait for me to email you to say, hey, I need you to come see me because we've got to start talking about classes for the next semester? How are you going to take that? Are you going to take that by the horns and do it yourself, or wait for someone to tell you it's time to do this? Are you a perfectionist, or are you flexible? With dual enrollment, you're going to have to be flexible, particularly if you're doing part-time. Your schedule may have to be changed, we may have to adjust things. So how does that mesh with your mindset? Are you easily overwhelmed, or are you capable under stress? Are you resilient? Do you have that grit? Do I have any freshmen in here? Any freshmen? Do y'all remember us talking about grit? Do you remember that video that we did in the lesson about how, if you fall down or something doesn't work right, you have to get back up and keep going? How are you under stress? Okay, you need to be able to handle that. Unassertive versus assertive. If you need to make up a test with a professor, are you going to be okay to go and talk to that professor on your own? Hey, I need to make this test up. Are you available? Go see them during office hours. Are you the kind of person that would go to see a professor in their office if you need help? That goes to the next one. Are you unwilling or unable to ask for help, or are you a good self-advocate? You've got to be a good self-advocate if you're going to do dual enrollment. Are you a procrastinator, or are you on top of things? Procrastinators sometimes miss deadlines. They miss getting the good schedules because all the classes are full by the time they go to register for classes. You don't want to be a procrastinator. Are you highly dependent on your parents, or are you independent? Okay, if your parents are doing everything for you, parents, if you're doing everything for your kids, if you want to do dual enrollment, students, if you want to do dual enrollment, you need to be saying, okay, I got this, and do it. Take care of these things. If there's stuff that I'll talk about tonight, and you're interested in doing this, jump on it. Start researching this stuff on your own, okay? Show them that you can do it. Do you ignore email or check email? I said that already, okay? Keep maintaining eligibility. Students do have to maintain a certain GPA, certain grades to stay eligible. They have to be continuing for high school graduation. If you fail a class, it can impact whether you remain eligible. And colleges can set their own benchmark for that. Some, if you drop below that, you're out automatically. KSU, they don't give much wiggle room, but Chat Tech, they'll put you on a probationary period to give you 1 semester to try to bring that up, and if you don't, then you're out. So different schools do that differently. Students have to be enrolled full-time between the high school and the college, so a full-time college student would be between 12 and 15 hours, so that's 4 or 5 classes. If you're doing part-time, when we add up all the credits, it has to basically equal 3 units of credit per semester. That's how many credits a student is earning at Pope during the school day each semester, 3 in the fall and 3 in the spring. So, along with that, the way that credits are awarded, if a student's taking a 1 to 2 hour credit class, those are generally sometimes PE classes, Sometimes the fine art class might be a 1 hour class. You get a half unit of high school credit, but if you take, the majority of classes are 3 hour classes, 3 to 5 hours, and you get a full unit of high school credit for that. So, for example, I've got some classes listed down at the bottom. So each of those classes are 3 to 4 hours, and so you would actually earn 4 units of high school credit if you took that full-time load to the left. So that's just an example of what a student might choose to do one semester. Okay, and then the next semester they can take something similar and get another 4 units of credit. So they can end up with 8 units of credit if they take 5 classes. You can earn a lot of credit with dual enrollment, so that's kind of a neat thing. Okay, if you do part-time, this is a conversation that you would definitely have with your counselor. We would want to talk about when you want to take your POPE classes, when you want to take the dual enrollment classes. We have to try to nail this down as early as possible so that when we create the POPE schedule, we're putting your POPE classes in the correct periods. You know, and when you're thinking about this, I've already talked about, think about the bell schedule. You have to think about your extracurricular activities. If you do marching band and you have to be at practice in the afternoons, then you have to account for that. Okay, you can't miss college classes because of a rehearsal or a practice. That college professor is not going to be lenient with that. Okay, think about the announcements and AO, talk about that. Transportation, so those are things to be thinking about if you're going to do part-time. And no matter how hard we try, no matter how many times we go back and forth and try to arrange the schedule, there still might be conflicts. Again, we have to be flexible. You might have to change your POPE classes. You might have to change your college classes. We might go back and forth several times, lots of emails to the college and to your counselor, but we'll try to make it work. But sometimes, even as much as we try, some things just, you can't put 2 things in one spot. Our goal is to have everything set before summer. We want to make sure that the classes are set. This school year that we were still adjusting things in the fall when students got here, it was a little crazy. So our goal this year is to definitely have everything done before the summer. I'm going to talk about timelines a little bit more in a minute. Okay, so some more about awarding credits. At colleges, in order for a college to allow a student to move on to the next level, they have to earn a C or better. Okay, some students will earn a D. We still will give them credit for a class that earns a D, but it's going to create problems if they want to take, let's say they took English 1101, they made a D, they want to take English 1102. Well, the college isn't going to let them take English 1102 because they made a D. Once you've earned credit for a class, dual enrollment will not pay for it a second time. So there's some tricky little things that we have to talk about if that happens. We don't want that to happen, obviously, but you have to be successful. But you still would get the credit if you earn a D on the class. But we want to see A's and B's. Okay. In order for the credits to be awarded at POPE, we have to receive a copy of the college transcript. They will have the students fill out a form when they come, just releasing that record to us. When we get that transcript at POPE, we convert all the grades that come to us. They're all letter grades. Colleges award grades based on letter grades. We convert them using this chart here. This is in the board policy manual, Cobb County set. Basically, it's the middle grade, 90 to 100 is an A, so we just pick 95. Okay. That would be the A, and you can see the C and D is, it's the midpoint plus, they actually give you the little bump there. And an F would be a 69. And so then we post the numeric grade to the transcript. Okay, dropping courses. You don't want to drop classes, okay? Colleges frequently will put students on the general student body email list, and they get all these emails, and they'll say, you have until October 31st to drop this class. Well, that's the college students, but the dual enrollment students should not be dropping classes after the first 10 days. It should not be making any changes because we have to get, if you are receiving financial remuneration for a class, if the state is paying for the class for you, the class has to go onto your transcript, okay? So we would actually have to give that course a grade of a 10. sometimes I say that and people are like, what do you mean a 10? I'm like, a grade of a 10, okay? That's what is told to us by the county. And of course it will impact the GPA, it will impact graduation status, all these things. So the bottom line, don't drop a class, okay? Even if your students, even if you get those emails and it says, hey, you can drop classes, you can drop classes. You heard it from me, do not drop classes, okay? You have to have our approval anyway, and we counselors would tell you don't drop classes, but anyway. It could also drop the student below full-time status, which means we'd have to put them into a POPE class to keep them at full-time status, so you might be plopped into a class back here at POPE. And it could definitely take you off track for graduation. Students are still eligible to participate in sports, extracurricular activities. They are still considered POPE students doing dual enrollment. You just have to be really careful about making sure that nothing is going to conflict with tournaments, with rehearsals. College professors are not going to give you a bye just because you are going to state. You know, you've got to go to a state tournament. You know, they're going to look at you and say, well, we have a test. You can't be absent, okay? So think about those things. If you think that there may be something that might conflict, professors do not have to give you any kind of makeups for things that you might miss due to extracurricular activities or really any kind of things. So keep those things in mind. Okay, let's talk about the languages, foreign languages, personal fitness, health, career tech, fine arts. All of these classes are available to a certain extent. So foreign language classes, students can continue their foreign languages, or they can start a brand new one. Typically, you would have to take, if you want to continue, there's usually a placement test the student would need to do to determine what level they're going to go into at the college. Everybody who's starting a new language would just start with 1101 and go from there. Help is usually available. The one that's the tricky one, this is something that just was implemented last spring as we were registering students for the summer. They came and said, guess what? Students can't take personal fitness over the summer. They have to be considered a full-time student during the school year, and they totally took that option away from our kids who were trying to take personal fitness over the summer, which was disappointing to say the least for a lot of kids. But the only way that a student can take personal fitness or any PE class, yoga, whatever, they have to be considered a full-time student at the college. So, career tech, fine art classes are definitely available at the colleges. Those are going to be less likely to transfer though, so you just have to, especially the career tech, say you go to Chat Tech and you take automotive, something, it's not likely going to be something that would transfer. So you just have to know that. Okay, so to find the list of classes, a lot of times people are like, well, what in the world can my child take? You go to the GAFutures.org website, and there's a link on the first page, Move On When Ready. Again, it's the old name. It may eventually change. And you click on course directory on that page. So what I'm going to do, I know a lot of y'all are taking pictures. I'll wait for a second. So GAFutures.org. And I've got a screenshot. I'll show you exactly where that is on the main page, and then it's in the course directory. Okay, ready? All right, so this is a screenshot of the website. So if you just scroll down to the news you can use section, it's hard to see, but I've got it circled there. That is where the Move On When Ready link is. Now, if you wanted to click through, you could click up on the very top. You see that little yellow box up above the FAFSA ahead. There's a little yellow box. It's actually a little house, a little white house in there. Right next to that is the tab, and it says Hope and State Aid Programs. If you click on that, and then I think it's under scholarships, and if you click on that, then the clicking through to get to the Move On When Ready page, you can do it that way. Or you could just search, and it would come up as well. But this is the easiest way to find the Move On When Ready page. But on that page are all the regulations. You can find course directories. You can find all kinds of good stuff that I'm not going to bother telling you about today. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about Hope or Zell. By the way, if you want to know all the good stuff that I told you about Hope Scholarship, you can go, again, up to that top, that very top tab next to that home button. It's Hope and State Aid Programs, and there's a whole bunch of stuff about Hope Scholarship if you want to learn more about that. So the classes that students take at the college, if their core degree level classes, so academic degree level classes, are actually included in the HOPE GPA, so we would put them on to the HOPE transcript, and all that data is sent to the Georgia Student Finance Commission, and they do include that in the initial HOPE GPA for when the student graduates from high school. Those classes are also included in the rigor requirement. There's a requirement that students take 4 rigorous courses in order to get the HOPE scholarship or Zell Miller scholarship. And those are not as rigorous as what we at HOPE tend to think of rigor being. Some examples of rigorous classes are level 2 and higher of a foreign language, pre-calculus, chemistry, physics, the on-level versions of these classes. Some people think it has to be an honors or an AP class or dual enrollment. Dual enrollment classes do count, but as far as the other classes that your students are taking, it's very rare for a student at HOPE to not earn the rigor requirement just by naturally taking the classes that they normally would take anyway. The credits don't count against HOPE either, which is a very nice thing. So let's say your student wants to max out as much as they can get out of dual enrollment while they're still in high school. They can earn lots and lots and lots of credits here while they're in high school, but then when they go to college, they still have their full amount of HOPE available to them. So that can help them get toward a double major or, whatever they might want to do, maybe graduate early, whatever. And then the credits that have received dual enrollment funding are not counted as attempted hours once the student enters college. So it doesn't count against their GPA there either. So some bonus things there. So the local opportunities around our area, the schools that our students usually participate are KSU, Chat Tech, Georgia Highlands, which a lot of people don't know about Georgia Highlands, but it's a small 2-year college. Well, I don't want to say small, but it's a 2-year college in the state of Georgia. But they have a lot of satellite campuses, and one of their satellite campuses is actually on the KSU Marietta campus. They share a space with them. So it's actually a pretty close campus, and we've had some students do that. Miss Freckerstar took classes at Georgia Highlands, and I think she really liked them. Yep. So that's a great option. And then Georgia State Perimeter. Every once in a while, I have a student that wants to do Georgia State, and I'm like, are you sure you want to drive? Mom and Dad, are you sure you want your child to drive down to Georgia State? Georgia State doesn't want students taking online classes. They want them to take them on their campus. So, if you're up for it, I've done that job before, so for grad school. So, but Georgia Perimeter merged with Georgia State recently, and so some students will do the Georgia Perimeter campus, and they do offer online classes through Georgia Perimeter. So steps, I've got several pages of steps. I've got there's a handout, the pink one that you have. These it's the detailed steps that you would need to follow for dual enrollment. I'm just going to briefly go through them. So come to this meeting, which you all are doing. It's up to you to research the appropriateness of this program for you and your student. Certainly you can ask us questions, we can give you advice, but in the end, it's a choice that you and your students, you are making for yourself. It's not something that we recommend or discourage, but ultimately you have to decide for yourself if it's the right thing for you, okay? My job is to make sure you graduate from high school, okay? That's the counselor's job. So my job is making sure that everything that we pick is something that will meet your graduation requirements. All the extra stuff, whether you take chemistry versus environmental science versus, anatomy, I'll be honest with you, I want you to take the right thing that's right for you, but ultimately I want it to be a science, okay? Whatever science it needs to be. So we can help you with deciding that, but really the college is going to be the best at advising you which is going to be the best for this or that, especially if you're going to stay at that college. If you're going to transfer to another college, this is where you have to go and start talking to that other college and say, okay, well, if I want to major in biology, if I take this biology at Chat Tech, is it going to count for the biology there? Will it count for that major? That's stuff you've got to do, okay? All right. You have to take the SAT or ACT or the AccuPlacer. The 4-year colleges and the 2-year colleges do require SAT and or the ACT. If you're going to do KSU, if you look on the green sheet, if you flip it over onto the side that has the deadlines, KSU's deadline, they're calling it their priority deadline for the fall, is January the 19th. So if we count backwards, that doesn't give very many ACT or SAT dates remaining. SAT has done away with their January test date. So it's got to be this fall. You need to take the SAT and or the ACT this fall. So there aren't many left, okay? The IQ Placer is for Chat Tech. You can certainly submit SAT or ACT scores if you do Chat Tech, but they have a free placement test you can take with them. You probably have to take time off of school to go do that because most of the time they give them during the day. But you would go take IQ Placer, and then that could admit you to KSU, or Chat Tech, sorry, not KSU. But for the other schools that have later deadlines, again, just be very mindful of those test dates because you have to make sure that you take the test in time for it to get to the college by the deadline. Okay. If you've taken any AP classes or if you've taken any AP tests and you have scores that you would like to have counted for you at the college, you need to go ahead and send those. If you're taking an AP class this year and you want that credit to count for the next fall. When you take that test in May, you need to make sure that college is going to be getting that score automatically. You don't want to wait for the score to come back in July and then say, oh, let's send that score, because it's going to delay you being able to take the class that you need to take. Some schools won't let you register for the class that you want to register for until your score has come back to show that you have exempted that entry-level class. So if you want to do English 1102, but you're hoping your AP score will exempt you out of English 1101, that there may be issues with that. So that's important to know about with the college. You would need to go ahead and begin and or submit the college application. Some colleges want you to meet with us first before you submit the application. Some want you to submit certain paperwork first, and then they will give you the fee code so that you don't have to pay for the app. There's several different ways that works. So just kind of be mindful and aware of what the college is requiring for submitting the application. And then you would schedule a meeting with your counselor to complete paperwork. Some of that paperwork might be required to actually do the submission of the application. So, and we do want parent and student to participate in this meeting. There's some paperwork that has to be signed off by the parent. And then in future meetings, we might just meet with the student and just send the paperwork home for parent to sign. But that first initial meeting, we definitely have to have parent and student participate. And then once the student has sent their application in and all their supporting documentation, they will receive an email from the college notifying them of acceptance. Okay, and that goes to the student. It's not going to go to the parent. I've had kids say, I have no idea if I've gotten in. I'm like, well, have you checked your email? You got to check your email. So it goes to the student. And it will tell them how to register for an orientation or an advisement session. And that's where you learn all the stuff about the college, about how to register for your classes, how to get your parking pass, how to get your books, how is that going to work. They give you all of that information. Some colleges will meet with you one-on-one and register you and hold your hand all the way through. It depends on the school, okay? It depends on the college. So you want to register for your classes as soon as possible. And if you look on that green sheet, the deadlines, if you look at the top, I've got some I'm calling them priority deadlines for Pope High School. You know, students might still come and want to do dual enrollment after those deadlines have passed, but believe me, those classes fill up and there's not going to be a lot available to them. So we want you to make sure, please follow those deadlines. So look at the college calendar to determine the early priority registration time. So if you go onto the college website and look for their academic calendar, a lot of times they will show you or they will tell you when their registration windows open up for classes. So this is something that kids, you're going to have to start digging into websites and start looking for this stuff because it's not just going to be handed to you. If you know when those early and priority registration windows are, just time it so that you get accepted and are able to get on those earlier registration times because you want to make sure that you get the location that you want for the classes. Let's say you want all your classes to be at Mountain View Chattahoochee Tech Center. You want to get in on the earliest registration possible because those classes fill up because you're competing with the other college students, you're competing with Lassiter, you're competing with Sprayberry and Kell and all those other people who might want to also be taking classes at the Mountain View campus, okay? So fall scheduling usually begins around March or April, so it's pretty early. It's about the time we're doing our registration here at Pope too, so it's not too early. And then once you get your schedule, you have to email it a PDF to me and or your counselor so that we have it. That's proof that you have registered for the class and that we can submit the funding application so that you get funds paying for those classes. Okay, so a little bit more on the advisement session that you would do with the counselor. At this session, we are going to talk about your graduation plan, what it is that you need to finish to graduate. And again, my job is to make sure that you graduate from high school. Your job is to make sure that if you're wanting to transfer things, that you've done your research and you know what will transfer, okay? We're going to sign a form called the Student Participation Agreement, which basically is where we're listing out the classes that the student's going to take. And this is what you're going to send to the college so that they know what you should be registering for. Some colleges won't let you register for anything but those classes. Some, as long as you email back and forth, they'll let you change things. But the participation agreement that's the document where we talk about the classes. Cobb County Local School Agreement, this used to be called a contract. This is going through the rules and regulations. You need to know how, you're signing off that you understand how credits work, how the extra quality points work, dropping classes. You have been informed. That's what the Cobb County agreement is. I will have everybody go ahead and go onto the gafutures.org website and do the online funding. There's another form on this website where you're actually, that we send to the state, and that's something we'll do together. I'll have everybody sign up for a Remind so that I can text message, which is very handy. At this time, you could also request an official transcript to be sent to the college. That's kind of a handy time to do that. And then any additional required paperwork that the college may need, we can take care of that at that time as well. So more on the college application process. When you go to do the application, some colleges will have a whole separate dual enrollment application. Some want you to just do the normal college application, and then when you're in it, you'll click the dual enrollment checkbox. Just depends on the college. Some will, usually if you're doing a dual enrollment application that is just their own, that application is just the dual enrollment application, there's no fee with that. You'll just hit submit and it goes, you don't have to pay for it. If it's part of the college application that all students fill out, you might have to get a fee code to waive the $20, $30 fee that most students have to pay. You'll have to submit the participation agreement as part of the application process. Sometimes the colleges will have you upload that into their portal. Sometimes they want you to email it to them, maybe even mail or even hand deliver it. I've had students walk it over to the dual enrollment office and hand it to them. So just, again, it depends. Again, you have to request a transcript from the counseling office. You can't just use the one that we give students every semester. Students can't just mail that in. It's got to be an official one from the counseling office. Those are $2. You have to make sure that the test scores go from the testing agency. You can't put those in an envelope and send them or ask us to send them. It has to go through the testing agency. And then some of the additional paperwork, a lot of times colleges, they need to know that you have been immunized. They're going to want verification of that. Some colleges do require verification of lawful presence as well, and that's more information. You can find that on their website as far as what they would need to verify your lawful presence. Okay, so I've talked about the priority deadlines. Again, so what I've decided, and I've talked to administration about this, we want students, it's a good practice to think at least 1 month prior to the deadline, or if March 1st or March 31st comes before that, go with whichever deadline is the earliest. Okay, we want these applications to get in early. We don't want you coming in on May 1st saying, hey, I think I want to do dual enrollment. We're going to be like, oh, it's really late to be asking to do that. And I've got some examples there, so it's hard to see that. But for example, Georgia Island summer deadline is March 1st. We want you to complete the process by February 1st, okay? Because we want you to do it a month prior to the deadline. Because if you're getting your stuff in by the college deadline, then it'll take a few more weeks for you to get an acceptance. And then it'll take another week or two to get into an orientation. So we want you to have all that done well before then, so by the time the deadline comes around, you can get on that very first orientation. You can get in on that very first registration session, okay? And I've got some other examples there, but just try to keep those dates in mind. Okay, and one thing that the administration wanted you to know, after March 31st, it will become increasingly more challenging to coordinate your dual enrollment and POPE schedules, because as we start to build the POPE schedule, it makes it more and more challenging to make sure that your college classes are going to mesh with your POPE classes. It starts to get tricky, so the earlier the better. So additional information sessions, KSU, they always do several, they call them honor view sessions. So if you're interested in KSU, if you go to that website, you can register for those. If you just go to the Kennesaw State website, it's under admissions, look for Enrollment Honors Program, DEHP, and you can click on the registration times. You can pick any of those dates. I don't think any of them are full yet, but you can learn more about KSU. And then Cobb County always does what we call a summit every year. This year they're just, it looks like they're just doing one, that's all I've heard about, at Kell on October 24th between 6 and 8. Sometimes I've spoken at these before, so don't come to the counselor session if I'm speaking because you've heard it already, unless you want to hear it again. Somebody else may talk. But a lot of times the reps from the different colleges will be there, DOE representatives, so there's lots of other people that might be there to talk to. So, if you're interested, after all of this, if you're interested in doing dual enrollment, the next step would be, well, to research, to make sure it's right, figure out what college you're interested in pursuing, or college is, and then set up a meeting with your counselor, your child's counselor, and you can see the names up here. We're also listed on the POPE counseling website, okay? And then we would meet with you and talk about the next steps based on the detailed step sheet there, okay? So that's all I've got, okay? And we can definitely do some Q&A if you'd like to, but I would like for everybody to please do this survey. This is kind of a way for me to know who was here, and I know some people left, but try to tell them. We want everybody to log their attendance. It's really quick and simple. Just I want your name, your student's name, what your plans might be, and then if you have any comments or questions or anything. So if you guys could take time to do that. But does anybody have any questions for me? Yes, ma'am. Which page? The summit. You know what? If you look at your green sheet, and the other side that is not the deadlines, if you look over on the left, if you want to know those dates for the summits and the KSU, do you see it? There they are. Yep, there's the dates and times and locations for the summit. Yep, this one. Ratemyprofessor.com. I think it's rate my or rate my professor, I think. If you Google it, it'll come up. You'll find it. But that's a wonderful website. Yes, ma'am.
Oh.